In our next panel, we will showcase how technology is shaping the future of football, fan experience, and commercial opportunities.
So we're going to be talking about really amazing topics, modern topics, cutting-edge topics as well. Before we delve into the questions, it'll be amazing if you describe to the public a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we can step into the gist of it. Mustafa, do you want to kick us off, please?
Yes, absolutely. It's lovely to be here. I am Mustafa Ghouse. I'm based out of Mumbai. I have pretty much been in the sports industry my entire life. Started off with being a professional tennis player on the Indian Davis Cup team and on the ATP tour. Did that till I was about 28, 29. Have played tournaments here in Saudi as a junior growing up. Thereafter transitioned into the management space where set up the sports vertical for a very large corporate in India called the JSW Group, which involved investing in franchises in football, in kabaddi, and in the IPL, men's and women's, and then also investing in a cricket team in South Africa as well. Thereafter, have now transitioned into setting up a sports fund based in India, which is looking at early stage opportunities in the tech space.
Fantastic, fantastic. Welcome again, Mustafa. Matthieu, how about yourself?
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. Lovely event. Sadly, I don't have any pedigree in professional sports. Sadly, not tennis. A very average amateur boxer and football, but that's it for my sporting life on the field. What I do today is I look after the EMEA region for Stats Perform, also known as the most famous brand of the company, which is Opta. And as a company, what we do is we collect everything that happens on a football or a sports, but mainly on a football pitch. All goes into a database, and with that database, we create products that we then address to all the stakeholders in the sports industry, really, whether you're a football club, a league, or an athlete directly. You could be also media, of course, big tech, anyone that needs it, basically. That's what we do.
Amazing. Thank you, Matthieu. Andre, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us. We were just going through a quick round of introductions to present yourselves to the audience. And yeah, would you please?
Sorry being late here. I was caught outside, but it's an honor to be here to participate in the World Football Summit and share the panel here with important people in the industry. I'm the sporting director of FC Dallas, one of the founding members of Major League Soccer in the U.S. I'm from Brazil, worked in some of the top clubs there, also as a sporting director in Santos Grêmio, before joining Dallas in January 2019. So I'm going now in 2024 to my 6th season in Major League Soccer in FC Dallas, and it's been great. It's been great to participate in the growth of MLS and seeing the change and how football has, or soccer as we say there, is becoming more and more popular in the country.
Amazing. Well, welcome to the panel. Welcome to Jeddah as well, Andre. Mustafa, let's start with you. You're working in one of the most footballistic countries in the world, India. Walk us a little bit about, how do you see the industry maturing? What is the impact of digital and data transformation? What are you observing in the country?
Well, I think there's massive change. I think India and the football industry in India has been a bit late to adopt, but it's moving very fast now. I think if I go back to when we set up our football team and our football club, there was very little data and technology that was being adopted by teams and by coaches, by management. But now we've seen a whole different shift, whether it is from an analytics perspective, whether it is from player performance, injury prevention. All the best practices that we see in global football are now very much front and center. I think and we've been one of the first adopters of that. I mean, I remember going back in our first season itself, we had a partnership with SAP to put out our fan app and to have GPS tracking into fans to how to make their life easier when they're coming into stadiums and a lot of those type of things. But I think that right now there is a huge adoption for it, and it's a necessity. You can't have access to such a large fan base and not be knowing enough about them and not be knowing what they're doing. So all clubs are starting to adopt that and starting to build that into their systems.
Yeah, we see that happening across the football and across the sports, right? Where, and maybe that has been accelerated by the COVID pandemic, right?
Yes.
When all of a sudden
Yeah.
sports properties came to realize that even though they have millions and millions of followers online, they really don't know who these people are and how to communicate with them, right?
Yeah.
And Andre, let's move to you. In the US, and specifically for FC Dallas, do you see that the US soccer franchises are sort of using the full potential of digital and data, or is there like room for growth?
I think definitely there's a lot of room for growth. I'm the sporting director, so on the sporting side, I see that the usage of data analytics is still very little to the capacity that it can help the clubs. Obviously, it's the industry has been adapting to this reality, and now you see clubs in MLS. At least we have Department of Data and Analytics. Clubs are using more and more this to help in many different ways, from predicting the strategy of our opponents to scouting talent to enhancing the player performance. So, but still, I feel there's we are not yet using anywhere close the full capacity that this can give you all the information you can get from and still clubs in MLS particularly are adapting to that new reality and understanding what's the best usage, how you can be more efficient with data.
Amazing. We'll come to that topic and talking about data. Matthieu, you're working at one of the main data providers in the sports industry, right? Mainly in football, right? Because of the conversation here. This morning we were having a working session with a few individuals, observing how football analytics has evolved over the past 30 years. So we went back in time and we started remembering that 30 years ago you'd have people who were sitting in the stadium with their own video camera, like quite big one, recording the action, getting the videotape out, putting it in a video player, and then watching, pausing, taking notes, and we zoomed fast forward 30 years, and today we're talking about artificial intelligence, data streams, live data being fed to betting stations and broadcasters and.
Yeah.
What are you observing in the space? How has this space changed over the past years?
Yeah, it certainly has changed a lot, as you said. I think the best way to describe it is, I think it's data has become a standard for sure. Like when I started, which wasn't 30 years ago, but 15 years ago for myself in the industry, I still had to go to the clubs and try to be accepted as part of the chain of value and the fact that data will help them. Obviously, we no longer at that point. No, everyone understands the value of it. Everyone uses data. I can't name any football club that doesn't use it to a certain extent. Then the question is the level of maturity, right? And I think the level of maturity is enabled by tech. So we can collect data faster, we can process it faster, and we can tell you more about it thanks to technology and AI and the algorithm that you can build on the top of it. So I think the rise of data and the rise of data in the football world is due to the fact that the market has accepted the fact that it was necessary, but also it followed the rise and the rise in technology, because technology has been an enabler for people to make sense of the data. It's not always easy. And for people to then use it as part of the decision-making process or as a way to engage with their fans. Because one of the things that is very valuable from the data that is collected by people like ourselves is that you can use it for any of your needs, whether it is to engage with your fan base through your apps, your social channels or whatever, but also to be better as a football team.
Then, Matthieu, you bring up a very, very important point that I'd love to hear Mustafa's and Andre's perspective. The point is that even though technology has a proven track, even though the value of data is very well understood, yet you have to convince sometimes organizations to use it. Why is that happening, in your opinion, Mustafa?
Well, I think some part of it is just the mindset. You do interact with, if you talk about from a performance standpoint, you do always have some coaches which still have a huge dependence on touch and feel, and they're not fully convinced on using technology and analytics to the full extent. And then at the flip side, you would have management teams that are also not yet open-minded on that. I think slowly and steadily, as it's becoming more and more mainstream, you realize that it has to be adopted, and it's just a matter of time where everything is based on that. Yes, you still do need that touch and feel element, whether it is from a coaching perspective or the marketing feel, or having that connect with your fan base. But the back end support and the amount of information that you can get using data in the right manner is hard to ignore, and it's silly if a club is not really adopting it to the max that it can.
And then, Andre, do you agree with this?
Yeah, I do. Football's been played for more than 100 years, and there are some things that are so traditional that it's hard for you to convince, or those the people that have been in the industry for so long. One thing that came to my mind is just the scouting process is something that we're constantly changing and improving to find talent. And although the eye observation is something that we still trust, but we have been using our scouts less on-site games, live games, than we used before. Before, this was the main thing, was just traveling, watching games, and then sending reports. Now we have so many tools, so many technologies that help us with the video analysis that you can, in 2 clicks, you can watch a game anywhere in the world. And a lot of information and a lot of data, physical. We have physical data about players from many different leagues that we can evaluate before even seeing the player play. So we have some metrics that for each position that we feel what are the most relevant points that we want to see about this player. And then based on the data, we start filtering the players, so then we can watch it. So this is something that is difficult for some people that were before to understand and to accept. That is changing, but that's the new reality. That's how teams have been approaching, and especially in the US. If you remember the Moneyball and baseball and how there's a lot of influence in that. So football is also going that direction, and that's the reality we have.
Then following that trail, Andre, the role of the scout in the case, right? Because you've been focusing on the scouts, is changing. Yet not many scouts sort of would be able to cope with the change. Going from observing an action to then looking at a data set that Matthieu can put in your hands and trying to figure out, whether that player would be fit for the team or not. Did you see that the scout upskilling is one of the topics that the industry will be addressing in the coming years?
I think so. It's constantly improving. We get so many offers from many different tools, and even here, when you go outside, you see just different services for identifying talent that you just online, that you don't need even to be present to watch the players. So I think that's the scouting process and the way the scouts works in the football industry is something that has changed a lot, and is still going to change quite significantly with the amount of information. And as I said in my first response, we don't even know yet how much more we can make the usage of data, and in the scouting side, this will be a key differential for clubs.
Yeah, just a quick one on that, because I think it's spot on here. And as far as people using the data and that process of scaling or being used more widely, I think as a provider, we've got a big responsibility in building the right products as well. So, you can't be, we've got the great data, we collect it, we productize it, we give it to you, and it's done. We need to also listen to the market, to what the end user actually needs and wants to do with it, and then tailor the product in such a way. The data is never, the data is always as good as the people that uses it. So you need to empower these people, you need to train them as well, and from our perspective, give your client, the people you work with, a voice in the way you develop your product, and also then educate them to use the data in the right way. And we're not going to push the data using to people. It's for us to adapt to something that's been done for years. Scouting has been done, scouting is as well as football. So you need to find your way around it and enhance it. Because at the end of the day, as much as I love data, and this has been my job for 15 years, data is always only going to be a tool. You need to make that tool sharp and usable, but it's always going to be a tool.
Matthieu, go ahead.
Sorry, it's
Mustafa,
also
please.
just a factor of legacy sports versus new emerging sports, right? That there is a certain way people have done things in the past, and there is a mindset that they want to stick with that, and that is the right way, as opposed to maybe a few new emerging sports that are way more open-minded and don't know anything else. This is their using data and using technology is how they've started off. Yeah. The thing, it's that transformation that we're seeing right now in football world over.
And the transformation that you mentioned, Mustafa, is happening on the sporting side, but it's also happening on the business side. Yeah, Matthieu, if you are a company that feeds data or generates data and distributes data for so many different stakeholders. Let's shift a little bit to the fan engagement perspective. Yeah, how is data being used in those domains?
It's being used by anyone that wants to talk about football, which is the great news for us. So there's some space for data in any channel that you want to use to talk to football. And then the use is very diverse based on what you want to do with the data. But also what we're trying to do, and this is why, again, having the right products is great, but also having local teams is really important, is data is being used according to the fans you're trying to target. So, I don't think the FC Dallas will use the data to talk to their fans in the same way that PSG would, or a club in Australia or in India would. So you need in the way you build the products, you need to let that space and let people take the ownership. You need to help them do that. But what we see, and the trend we see everywhere is, again, I'll go back to the tech. Everyone is more, that generation is more tech savvy than it's ever been. They know technology. And I said earlier that data was a standard. People expect data. So what can you do to make that data easier to use for them, more accessible as well, and to make sure that they can use it knowing the meaning of it? So it's a lot of education. Is I can working with our clients to understand what is the fund they're trying to target, whether it's the country, the age group, or even the purpose of going to the fund with data, and then tailoring that use with them so they can actually own the experience and share with the right people at the right time.
I love how you're framing it. It seems that you're saying, listen, data is like it's almost like a motor vehicle. So it's like a car. It's a tool that allows you to travel, to go carry on your duty, but you have to learn how to use it. You have to learn how to interpret the signs around you so that you can actually go about driving the car. No, similar thing with data.
And just to pick another, Mounir, I remember back when I started, the first discussion was whether it was clubs or media, that people were worried that data was going to replace people, that were going to take jobs. And actually, if you had done anything, it's created jobs. Data scientists, data analysts, data journalists. These are people that use the data day in and out. They created, their job exists because the data is needed and we need the people to use them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity to upgrade skills, amazing opportunity to explore new opportunities as well. And what you mentioned is currently happening with artificial intelligence, right? Everyone's talking about how AI will eliminate jobs.
Yeah.
Whereas looking at the positive side of the picture, AI can generate new opportunities and create more efficiencies, right? Mustafa, when we were having the conversation last week as we were preparing for the panel, you mentioned about the case of Bengaluru FC redesigning the member portal, right?
Yes.
Walk us through why did that happen, and then what are some of the outcomes that you are observing or expect to observe?
Yeah, I think I guess just like we've been talking, it's about moving forward with the times and what's needed. The demand from your fans is way more than what it used to be. The expectations from sponsors and partners at the club is more than what it used to be. And as stakeholders, you also have understood and learned about what's happening globally and looking to adopt those. So it is about having more of these data sets with which we can then either have to go back to sponsors and partners on how well they are monetizing their relationship with us, and at the same time as a club you want to provide for your fans more, because they are loyal to you. At the end of the day, it's how much further can your dollars go, and I think that's the core thesis behind revamping the membership program. We want to also be able to now reach out to fans outside of our core markets, outside of the city, of the state, and to the country, as well as outside of to the Indian demographic and population living in different parts of the world. So I think those were the key thought processes with it. It's first season. It's been good so far. We have to keep building on it. But I think we're on the right path for this digital transformation that we're looking to achieve.
Amazing. And Andre, going back to you and to the US, the role of a sporting director, just like the role of a scout or head of commercial, head of marketing, head of data, and so on, is evolving maybe at a quicker pace than what it did in the past, no? What are your expectations for the few years to come? What should like a good sports director focus on? What's additional skill sets or what new perspectives do you think they should be like considering or adopting?
Yeah, that's a good point. For me, as a sporting director, you have to constantly be aware of what's happening in the industry, obviously, and what other clubs are doing. We share a lot of knowledge in MLS. Last week, for example, we spent 3 days, all the sporting directors in the same place with the league to discuss many things. So you kind of know what the other clubs are doing and in different areas. And I think with regards to this digital transformation data, MLS has been in the forefront of this in the US, and as a single entity, MLS has to take care of all the 29 clubs, 30 clubs in 2025. And for example, we have, as a single entity, every player that is signed to play in MLS signs a contract with the league. Doesn't sign with FC Dallas, with LAFC, with New York FC, or any other team. So, and the digital transformation that is happening, traditionally, we would have the lawyers drafting the contract. Now there's a system that every club has access to. You put all the information that you agreed on, you negotiated with a club, with a player, you put in a system, and it goes to the league, and already the contract is drafted. They just review and send it back to us.
Fantastic.
So we can check. So I think more and more you see those things progressing, and you making our job more digital and helping with all those tools. You mentioned about, and he was saying about the creating new jobs. MLS also requires, as from January 2024, that all the clubs in the league must have a performance scientist or a data scientist. So someone that can gather the data from different areas and apply in a way that we can enhance player performance or work on injury prevention and many different aspects. So this is the league going to the clubs and saying, hey, this is a mandatory position starting in 2024. Those are the certifications that this person must have. This is the job role, and you must have that. So it's the league pushing the clubs to keep progressing and keep improving. And I find that this is something that I feel I see is going to happen, at least in the way I see the league, and how it works more and more in the next few years.
And this is an amazing opportunity for a league to play, you know, as an entity that oversees, in your case, several franchises, you know, to contribute to the growth of all of the levels in all of the clubs, right? Like basically raising the sea level, right, will raise all the ships. A trend that has been spotted in the past by Bundesliga when they made mandatory the use of GPS technology for training purposes. Then with La Liga in Spain, you know, where they have an amazing, somewhat like player analytics tool that is available for all of the clubs to be used. And very recently, the Premier League has launched quite an ambitious data project, focusing more on the academies of clubs rather than on the first team, but always with the same driving force, right, or with the same intuition that if I as a league or a federation or a multi-stakeholder organization am able to raise the level in my ecosystem, I am benefiting the whole ecosystem instead of relying on clubs or individuals who take personal initiatives. We are in Jeddah. We're Saudi Arabia. We are in a country that is transforming quite a lot from a sporting perspective. Talking about football, you know, the face of Saudi football a year ago is very different from the face of Saudi football today. What are your observations, with no specific order here and there, on like, what is the road ahead? What are the opportunities ahead as well?
Wants to go first? I can take it.
No, I think it's amazing what we're seeing and how front and center the league is now. I'm looking forward to watching the game tonight. But I think I think it's becoming the focal point of world football, and I think it's exciting what's in store.
Matthieu?
Yeah, I think exciting is definitely the word. I think you know it's a whole new market that opens up. You know, football is a global sport, but you know, from a economic perspective, it's traditionally been very Eurocentric in terms of, you know, transaction or even the company that have been, you know, prospering in the world of football. So with the current investment, you know, I think we're going to see a lot of innovation, you know, come from it, because as a challenger market for the time being, they're going to go after the big ones. They're going to try new things, and that's going to be very positive for the market because that just raises the standard. So we see it as a very, very exciting, very exciting thing. Certainly for us as a company, and also. There's many other, and it's been referenced, you know, in the press when the first investment came out. Other parts of the world that tried, you know, to put a lot of money in football in the past. You know, China was mentioned, that never really materialized. I think there's a big difference. Is this is a proper football land. You know, people love football in the region. There's very you know, well-established clubs and leagues already, and I think this is a very good news for our industry as a whole. It's just going to push it forward. Amazing.
Andre, last word to you.
Yeah, I was in a previous panel watching, talking about the Saudi league, and one thing that I was mentioned that I agree is when you bring players of this caliber like you have here in Saudi now, it's going to raise the level, not only obviously what is easy to see in the pitch, but also outside, to make everyone, those players come from the highest standards from the top clubs in the world. And bringing that level of professionalization to Saudi, and on the field side, they're going to help improve the quality of the local players, which it's similar happening in MLS when you bring someone like Messi, like Busquets, and you help American players, and in this case here, the Saudi players, to learn from the best players there are in the world, and also on the other side, when you have that level of professionalization, that you demand more from the club, that the club must be in the highest standards. I think this is going to be great, and it's really exciting to see what's happening here.
Well, Andre, thank you very much. Matthieu, thank you. Mustafa, thank you very much. Shukran jazilan. Thank you, everyone. I think we have to go on to the next panel, yeah? But gentlemen, thank you so much for all the contributions that you made.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.